happy to have you on today. I know you have a very great story to tell us today. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and who Great Lakes Brewing is?
For sure. It's great to be here. But before I get into anything, I'm going to get into a beer.
Yes.
That's what we do here.
I love
I am
it.
our marketing and communications manager here at Great Lakes Brewery in glorious Etobicoke, which is just on the outskirts of Toronto in beautiful Ontario, Canada. And like I said, I'm a marketing and communications manager. Sometimes I can't say that word that well, but here we are to chat about our history and our resilient retail.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the background of Great Lakes Brewing. How long have you guys been around? What's kind of the founder story, the owner story, all that kind of stuff?
It's one of the most fascinating stories in Ontario craft beer, and we're one of the OGs. So way back in 1987, five guys decided they wanted to open a brewery around the Great Lakes. So they opened one in Brampton, Ontario. They were doing malt extract brewing, which we frown upon these days. But they were winning some awards for their beers, their taste profile, and their goal was to one by one they would each leave the mother brewery, if you will, and go and open their own breweries around the Great Lakes. That didn't happen. By 1990, the brewery sold to a gentleman by the name of Peter Bullitt, a construction developer here in Etobicoke. He moved the brewery to where we are today, 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke, and that's kind of the story. It's been in the Bullitt family since 1991, and we're just rocking and rolling right now.
I love it. So if you had to describe like the heart of Great Lakes Brewing, or, how would someone in the community describe your presence?
There'd be a number of words they might use. The first one that comes to mind is, you just said it, community. Our whole brewery, our whole ethos, everything we do is about our community. And sometimes we don't joke, but we kid around saying we're not actually in the brewing business, we're in the people business.
Yeah.
Because everything we do is for our customers, it's for new consumers, it's for our longtime supporters. We brew beer the way we want to brew beer, the beers that we want to drink, and our customers follow suit. And so I think, number one, the first thing our community would say about us is community. We do a lot of things for them, and that just makes our job so much better. So one of the things we've done during, just say, COVID, we've worked with like 4 different organizations to get some much needed money and financial support to the organizations, because they were impacted quite severely when COVID reared its ugly head. So
Yeah.
I would say community, and I would say fun. We're a fun-loving brewery. Everything we do, from our branding to label designs to how we interact with customers and our other brewing entities. So we all get along in this industry with competitor breweries, but we're the fun brewery. We're the ones that we like to drink. We like to responsibly, I should add, but we just like to have fun. We're a fun brewery.
Yeah, I love that. So, talking about the pandemic, right? You're so rooted in the community and so much about the people and the interaction with people and in the brewery and in the tasting room and all of this stuff. And then the pandemic hits and you had to close your doors completely. Can you tell us a bit what that was like and really what happened to Great Lakes Brewing in that moment?
Scary, nerve-wracking, anxiety, terror, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happened right around March 13th here in Ontario, here in Canada. And the first thing we did, we took extra precautions. So we started cleaning, more vigorously than we ever would. We were always clean to begin with, but it was top of mind. Every time someone touched something, we'd have our staff cleaning that. So we made the necessary steps to limit who was in our store, how many people. And then as COVID progressed, we decided, and we made the very difficult decision to shut down our retail store, our physical location, which is a very high trafficked area here in the Etobicoke community. And we pivoted right away to home delivery. And we had to rely on Shopify right off the bat to get up and running our e-commerce site. but right at the start of things, yeah, sheer panic, terror.
Yeah.
We did our best to meet together as a unit here at Great Lakes and talk. What are we going to do next? What is the next step? How can we weather this? You know, we lost our bar and restaurant sales pretty much overnight,
Yeah.
which is a huge component of the sales percentage of craft breweries. It doesn't matter if you're here in Toronto or you're in the U.S. Doesn't matter where you are as a craft brewer. You rely a lot on your bar and restaurant sales, and we lost that overnight. But we also lost all of our on-site events. So any weddings that were planned here at the brewery,
Yeah.
birthday parties, internal events, whether it be Live at Five, our music series nights on Friday, or trivia. We had a food truck here at the brewery. All that disappeared overnight. And so, yeah, sheer panic, anxiety, terror,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. But we have a very strong team at the brewery, and we were able to get together and overcome that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's like this is the craziest part about your story, and we're gonna get into like the follow up of it in a second. But it's there were a lot of brick and mortar stores who had to close their doors, but they already had some sort of online store happening, or they had merchandise in their store, and they could really pivot to curbside really quickly. But with with alcohol and the laws that were kind of around it, like all of your revenue streams just completely stopped, and there wasn't really anything just sitting right there for you guys to pick up right away. You had to completely pivot into entirely new kind of business models. Can you talk about that story and how you guys went from this terror and panic to then figuring out, okay, we can do out of home deliveries and these things, but it's a much bigger pivot than I think a lot of other brick and mortar businesses, because it wasn't just kind of built into the fabric of the business already.
That's right. Yeah. And so what immediately happened once that sheer panic and terror kicked in? Again, we met as a team and we said, okay, let's put our heads together. What can we do? And within 4 business days, we had our online shop up and running for free local home
Wow.
delivery of our products on any order over $50. So what we did is we looked at a geographical territory and we said, okay, if we can deliver to our community first and foremost, so people in the surrounding neighborhoods right around the brewery, that's good. We can get the beer out the door as fast as possible to these people that have always been there to support us. Let's do this for them.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we expanded our territory very slowly so that we covered all of Toronto. And it would be hard to describe it to listeners outside of outside of Toronto, but Toronto's a big city. We're one of the largest cities in North America.
Yeah.
So we had to strategically say, okay, we're going to target these neighborhoods to get the beer right there. So that's what we did. Our retail store manager, his mission was you have until the end of the week to get this up and running. So we were using Shopify for our merchandise, so t-shirts, glassware, and stuff like that for Canada-wide shipping. So we took those bones and we started to add our beer into that. And then we had to get a carrier license so that we could actually leave the brewery with beer in our
Yeah.
vehicles and get it to. So we worked with our local alcohol and gaming authority, and they granted a license right away. We have a good history with them, being around since 1987, and we were able to do that pivot very quickly. The other thing that was working that went really well in our favor is we had all of our bar and restaurant and retail channel. So that would be selling to our local liquor authorities. So the LCBO, beer stores, and grocery stores. We pulled them off the road because they weren't able to go into their accounts,
Yeah.
and we got them into the vehicles to do home deliveries. So we have branded vehicles, and we started to get the brand out there, if you will. You could see our vehicles all over the city, and that not only saved jobs, but it also gave our staff another sense of community again, to get out there and interact with our supporters from behind a door or a glass window. They were able to have that one-on-one connection. Hey, how you doing? Are you
Hmm.
okay? How's your family? And the smiles on the faces of the people that we were delivering to at the end of the day made it so much. It was a shining a bright light on a dark day. So
Yeah.
that's how we did that pivot from brick and mortar big retail to to home deliveries. And we still haven't really expanded our home delivery model because the local community has been so supportive that they're keeping us busy up to this day.
Yeah. And I find it really interesting that you guys immediately off the bat said, okay, we will do this for orders that are at least $50. And when you hear that right away, it's almost like $50 of beer is kind of a lot of beer for someone to buy in one single purchase. But it seems like that hasn't been a deterrent at all for the community. What was the decision behind that cost threshold, and how did you come to that decision?
So good question, because it was a lot of back and forth here on how do we make that determination. The one easy answer is we breweries are not allowed to charge where we are located. We're not allowed to charge for delivery. So if we want to offer home delivery, it has to be free. But in order to do so, to make it feasible for us to get people in the cars in it, we can't be delivering a 6 pack to
Yeah.
someone in geographical territory. But in Scarborough, when we're in Etobicoke, that's a 30-kilometer drive, or uh, 40-mile drive or whatever. And so we um, we had to seriously look at that model, and we chose $50 because all of our beers, we like to say, they're affordably attainable craft beer. So some breweries have a scale of pricing that uh, consumers believe is an extravagant buy,
Hmm.
where Great Lakes, we believe that everyone should have access to our beers. So, affordably attainable craft beer is something that we really live and breathe. And because of that pricing model that we have, we were able to say, okay, $50 gets you one case of beer. So if someone can buy one case of beer and mix
Nice.
and match three different brands into one case, we will deliver that to you. So we never had too much pushback on that. We had a lot of people saying this was a great deal.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how we came to the determination to keep it at $50.
Yeah, I love that. And then as these programs are starting to launch and, your community has never been able to have beer delivered to them like this before, how did you go about messaging or, announcing to your customers like, hey, this is available in a way that made them, clearly there was this such a big community positive response where everyone was just like, heck yeah, we're on board. Like, get me my Great Lakes beer. I need this right now. We haven't had it in weeks. What was it about the way that you guys announced it that you think made that reaction? Or was it something else? Was it just the previous relationships you had?
So it's a combination of a whole bunch of things, but first and foremost, it's what you just said last. It was the consumers that we already have that supported us because of our pricing, because of our customer service, because of our dedication to the community and being that pillar in the Etobicoke community. Those people, as soon as we said we are doing this, uh, again, they were like, we're going to support you guys.
Yeah.
And so that's first and foremost. Second, we leveraged a bunch of different marketing initiatives. We went old school and we went traditional marketing, and we went out and got die cut custom can cards. So people would get in the mail what looked to be a can of beer
Uh-huh.
that would say now offering free local home delivery.
I
So
love that.
we targeted areas around the brewery, and through our Canada Post service, uh, sent direct mail. So we went old school. But then we
Hmm.
went to social media as well too. So we have a great following of dedicated supporters on social media. And one of the things we like to do is listen. So we put the message out there, and then we listen to what the feedback's saying. And then because the people are so great at supporting us, they were actually spreading our message for us through social media. Hey, did you know you can order Great Lakes $50? It's free local home delivery. I would recommend getting this brand. Or
Yeah.
they're coming out with this next week. You should get this. So again, we relied on our customers to drive home that message. But we also used, and we still do to this day, we do a weekly newsletter that goes out with information about what's coming to the store.
Hmm.
So brand new releases, and then what's coming up behind that. So people can then plan out their purchasing. So they can say, okay, on Friday, I'm going to put in an order, and I'm going to get the new beers, and I'm going to get a another brand like Canuck Pale Ale, our flagship. And so then we synced that in with our Shopify account, so we were able to see when people were making their purchases, where they're making their purchases from, and then we would send out the newsletter around those times to then people would get the newsletter in their inbox and start shopping right away. So it was a little bit of everything, but the
Yeah.
one big thing we did is we didn't sit back and go, okay, now that we got the home delivery going, what are we going to do for beers? Our brewers
Yeah.
started just pumping out volume, and we kept them going through all the shutdowns, um,
Nice.
where we were doing literally 3 to 4 new brands a week.
Wow.
And I was just looking at our numbers today. Since COVID hit back in March here in Toronto, we have done 58 brand new labels, and that's creating and
Wow.
approximately 45 new beers. So it allowed our brewers the opportunity to get very creative. It allowed our marketing department, the three of us, to sit down and say, let's map out a road to succession here with introducing some new brand stuff that we've always wanted to do. And we had our artists do brand new drawings, and we come up with some fun things. And the very last thing, this is a long-winded answer, but the very last thing we did is, as I mentioned at the start of the call, that we got back in touch with some community organizations to do beers that we would give back part of the proceeds to them. So we worked with their groups to then spread the message that, hey, you can buy this beer that we brewed for the Jean Augustine Center for Young Women's Empowerment, and $1 from every can sold goes back into supporting their programming. And so then the community supported that
Yeah.
initiative. And so, yeah, so we went pedal to the metal, all day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Everyone really pitched in. It was a huge team effort. And we were lucky too that the local government liquor stores stayed open during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we were able to continue to get beers out across the entire province at the same time.
The thing that I love so much about all of these things that you said is that there's this common theme of always starting from a perspective of the consumer's needs and wants. And you mentioned listening, you mentioned timing newsletters based on the actions that the customers were already taking versus timing newsletters based on when you wanted people to purchase. And then even thinking about, releasing so many different brands in this time period, it's such an unselfish decision because obviously it's like you said, a lot of work and it takes a lot to get even one up, far less 40 something like you mentioned. But it's clear that that strategy came from, okay, if everybody's locked in the house, can we provide them something that they know that they love, that's local, that they know they're supporting a local business, but also that's continually exciting. And I feel like that's got
Hmm.
to do a lot for repeat purchases in this time frame because you've almost created this program of, as a customer, you can start budgeting weekly, bi-weekly of like, well, if this flavor is going to come out, this new beer is going to come out in 2 weeks, then I already know I have set aside $50 for that because I want that. And then in 2 weeks, I want this. It's such an inspiring way to go about business. And I just wanted to highlight that for the listeners that it just feels like every single decision, even the really tough ones, always came from a lens of, is this best for the customers versus is this what's absolutely best for us as a business?
100%. And consistency is key in this business. It's key in
Hmm.
many businesses that if people know to expect a newsletter, a simple thing like a newsletter, it's going to come out every Tuesday to their inbox, and they get used to it. So they get
Yeah.
used to seeing, what can I buy this week, or what's coming next week. Oh, I already bought a whole bunch last week, so I'm going to hold off this week. But knowing that we're always going to continuously have new releases, but not just new releases, is the consistency of our beer as well too.
Yeah.
So we don't burn our customers. They keep coming back, and we call them supporters or fans of GLB. They keep coming back because the beers are consistently delicious.
Yeah.
So it's again that I'm going to keep saying it because I love it, but it's affordably attainable craft beer, but it's also consistent from batch to batch. People know that they can comfortably and confidently spend money with us. They're going to get next day delivery. They're going to get great customer service, and they're going to get fantastic craft beer.
Yeah, that consistency aspect, especially, like you mentioned, the email marketing side. I know there's a lot of retail stores that are having to do email marketing for the first time ever. And there are people who make over six figures just by knowing how to do that one thing. It's a very deep skill to learn. And just starting simple with, can you give something at a regular cadence that is high value, that's giving your customers what they need and what they want. And even just starting there, you're building kind of that offline relationship that maybe you didn't have before. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was curbside pickup. This is something that we've
Mhm.
had, here locally in Colorado Springs, which I just think is one of the kind of coolest things that's evolved in the COVID era of, never before could I have driven to my local brewery that I love and just get like a jar of beer. Like, yes, you could get a whole growler or a crowler, but now you can go and like, I could order a single beer and a dinner and bring it home, or I can order like three mason jars or a growler and a cup for tonight. All these different things that before it just you couldn't just go get instant access to a local beer like that like you can now. What has that process been like for you guys, and have you enabled curbside pickup?
So we shut the store down for 1 month from March 23rd and we reopened April 22nd. And when I say we reopened, we didn't reopen our physical footprint to the public. We
Mhm.
opened a garage door and had a bar across it so that we were socially distanced and we could sell beer to go over a counter that we would pick and provide to the customer. But in opening up that model, we introduced curbside pickup to our Shopify platform. So people had the option to choose home delivery if they lived in the fresh GLB home delivery boundary zone, as we call it.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, or if they chose, oh, I'm not going to be home during your delivery hours, I'm going to choose curbside pickup. So it allowed for us to attract new customers from outside our delivery zone. They could plan, I'm going to drive into the city on a Saturday. I'm going to order the beer on a Thursday and I'm going to come pick it up on the Saturday. So we were blown away by the response. I mean, blown
Yeah.
away. The first week, I think we had 1,000 curbside pickups,
Wow.
and so the entire staff, from the owner of the company to all the different department heads, were downstairs in a retail store picking orders for customers that were coming in. At the same time that was happening, we were hitting 500 daily home delivery orders across
Wow.
the Toronto region. So um, it really made us it really made us work. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I said it earlier, and you just mentioned the offline conversations. The offline online conversations that happen, if they match and they're consistent, it's going to drive customer support. And having people come to the brewery to do curbside, they got to see that we were doing okay. We got to see their faces again.
Mhm.
And we got to have that through a window, but we still had a conversation with our supporters. Um, and we just kept a dialogue going. And that matched our online communications through our social media and through our newsletters. That we're doing okay. We're so thankful for everyone that's supporting us. Um, but the curbside really was a way for us to see people again,
Mhm.
and for them to see us. So they appreciated the hard work that we were doing behind the scenes, because I'm not exaggerating. When you came to pick up your order, you could see into our retail store and you could see the mountains of orders that we were picking, and people were just
Yeah.
like, "This is all for today." So uh, very humble that that happened. But it allowed that two-way conversation to happen again. Again, community. It's all about community here at Great
Yeah.
Lakes.
Yeah. And speaking about the community and kind of this online to offline conversation, you mentioned the charity beers you did, which is just so cool. You mentioned the, multiple brands you guys came out with in this time, all these cool things you guys are doing. There's one other little campaign you guys did that I just absolutely love and I want to ask you about, which is making coloring books out of the beer labels. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's something we've done in the past, where we take our artist black and white drawings. So they'll draw a character for any of our beer labels, and we'll take that artwork and make it into a coloring book. So we've done 2 volumes that we sell in our retail store, and physical paper coloring books. But as soon as COVID hit and they shut down the schools, They shut down businesses. My wife is in healthcare, and so we had to split uh, our um, our children's supervision, if you will. So
Yeah.
they weren't in school, and so we had to take time. I'm going to do it Tuesday. You can go to work, and
Yeah.
but during those days, we wanted to keep the kids occupied. So it was kind of bred out of selfishness on my part, where I was printing off all of our black and white artist drawings. And so we printed those out, and I had my son coloring them. I said, why don't I put these out for free so people can just download them, print them off, or if they're on an iPad or a tablet, they can save the file and then color them in. So that's what we did, and the response to that was incredible. It really showed parents and frankly people that don't have children. They were using the pages. It was one of our highest trafficked um, pages on our website
Yeah.
for months, and it was just great to see the response that parents would then put it on social media. So here's our son, or here's our daughter with a colored in Gordy Levesque, which is the character on our Canuck Pale Ale, and it's heartwarming to
Yeah.
see those. And then we can create the dialogue. So then you reach back and say, well, tell your daughter, like, great job. She's going to be an artist one day. That made it fun for us here at the brewery as well to see those. We would print some of those off and put them up in our store, so we could just see them every day, and a reminder that you know it's not all doom and gloom out there. So
Yeah.
it was really nice to see that.
Yeah. Again, just talking about that person to person human connection that the brand is built on. I think a lot of fear comes out of, retailers going into e-commerce for the first time. You get this inherent fear that we're going to lose that human to human connection that we've worked so
Hmm.
hard to build in our store. And you guys have done such a good job of taking that and being able to replicate it on the digital front and then create this. And I hate this word because it feels so like marketing buzzword, but this omni-channel experience or dialogue. How do you think it is that you guys continually make those decisions in that way? What is it? Is it something that, somebody in every meeting is saying, okay, but wait, is this the right thing? Is this really standing by the brand? How do you maintain that human connection even online when it feels like it actually is really hard to do that online?
For sure. And so one of the things we had here before COVID hit was, we call it the experiences team.
Mm,
So it's people that have touch points to the customer's experiences. And we came up with a line that what is our mission? What do we want to do every time we have an interaction? And it's
yeah.
creating memorable experiences one sip at a time. And so when we lost that ability to do it in person here at the store and in our tap room, we had to do it online. But we were always doing it online. It just became more prevalent that during COVID that we were able to change the model of how we delivered those memorable experiences. Um, I will say the person to person, the human connection was when one of our delivery folks, one of our staff, whether they be a senior sales manager or whether they be someone who worked in a retail store, it didn't matter. You were delivering beer to someone and you were seeing the face of each
Hmm.
individual. So the decisions we would make as a group were always about the customer because we were getting the feedback from the customer on every interaction in person. Offline, we were taking and listening, we were social listening to what people wanted to tell us, and we were giving people a platform. Again, that this is where it came in that we're not always in the brewing business, we're in the people business.
Yeah.
As corny as that sounds, we're all humans too, and so we
Hmm.
needed a place to maybe unwind or vent. And so we would host weekly Zoom sessions with different members of the brewery. So one week you might be talking to the owner of the brewery, the next week a brewmaster, the next week you might be talking to someone who moves beer from tank to tank.
Yeah.
But it allowed our customers the opportunity to ask us anything they wanted to ask us, tell us a story about their favorite beer experience with us, and it kept us sane during those times as well too. So I think the decisions were, we would sit around and say, what's next? What can we do next that makes us happy? But what will make our customer, our supporters, our GLB fans happy? And a lot of that came from them by telling us what they wanted. So I always say to other marketers and to just anyone in business that listen to what your customers are telling you, because if they're saying you're on the wrong track, chances are you're on the wrong track. So,
Yeah.
um, but it was those interactions. We're all humans. We all wanted to talk to someone, and we just had the platform, and we took. I'm not going to say we took advantage of it because it uplifted us, but it
Yeah.
was, yeah, it's our ethos here is to have fun, create those memorable experiences one sip at a time. And if we couldn't do it in person, we're going to do it online, and we're going to do it by those individual home deliveries.
Yeah. I love that so much. And so going through all of this, what has this taught you about the business, about Great Lakes Brewing, and then about the community that you guys are in?
That we can do anything fast if we really work together as a team.
Hmm.
Um, it's not cliche to say, but it is cliche, I guess, in some respects. Is if you don't have a good team, you're going to have some missteps along the way. And if everyone can, shed titles and say, we're all in this together, let's do this for the customer, let's do it for each other, you're going to achieve some great things. So, those first 4 days of getting the online shop up and running, the back end of Shopify was great. We were able to navigate that. It was all the other stuff that went along with scheduling the drivers. It was okay. Now, what if someone's not home?
Hmm.
The government restrictions and regulations surrounding dropping beer off at someone's home. Those were all things we had to navigate. So there was a lot of late nights. But if someone that was in charge of that area didn't know, they would ask for help. And so teamwork, teamwork, teamwork for us at Great Lakes was something that really drove us to the point where we are today. And so that's the first lesson that I'll take away from all of this. And the second is to just be real.
Yeah.
I hate the word authentic. Everyone
I
throws
love
that around, and
it.
that's like you hear that, and it's a drinking game. If every time someone on a podcast says authentic, take a drink. Same with
Yeah.
pivot right now. We like to play a pivot game with taking drinks every time someone says pivot.
If somebody
I
played
think that
that
was just
game
oh,
personally or
yeah,
retail, they would go through a six pack so fast.
exactly. So, but it's just, we had to pivot, and we understood we had to do that, but we were authentic in every step that we took. We were uh it's not about making billions and billions of dollars, because we're a small brewery.
Hmm.
But it was about how do we make our lives better and customers lives better at the same time, and again, authentic.
Hmm. See, I
And
think
I'll
it's a
drink to
good word. Drink to that. I
that.
should have had a beer today. Darn, I really missed my chance. So I have to ask for anybody who's local in Toronto or who can find your beer, what would be like, and I'm sure this is like asking you to name your favorite child, but your top, let's say top three choices for beer. If they can go get it, what should they absolutely try?
So first and foremost, if you haven't had Canuck Pale Ale from Great Lakes before, you got to get that. That's our flagship beer, and that is the beer that runs through the bloodstream of all of the staff here at the brewery. So, if any of us were to go to give blood, they'd have to pull a pint of Canuck out of our veins before they got to the blood. So that's first and foremost. The second one, and one that I'm enjoying immensely these days, and one that I'm having right now as we speak, is a beer called Absacker, and it's a German Helles lager. And it was a
Ooh.
beer that we had a friend of a friend in Germany bring a brewmaster over here to our brewery in Etobicoke, and it just happened that he's the brewmaster for a brewery that was created in 1422. And he came
Whoa.
over and he worked with our brewers and said, "Let's brew an authentic German Helles." So he taught our brewers a lot, and we've done it 3 or 4 times, and I'm enjoying this beer. It's fantastic. We just sold out, so you'll have to wait till the next one comes out. Um, but then I would say we have a new beer we just launched, which we didn't touch on, but it's a beer called Haze Mama. It's a New England style IPA, and I've learned a lot about launching a brand new beer during a pandemic.
Mm.
So this beer is a year-round beer from Great Lakes. You can buy it across Ontario at we call them LCBOs, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and it's available across the province. but it is a big 7% juicy New England IPA with tons of tropical flavors. Great artwork, great story behind it. And yeah, we launched a beer during the pandemic, which was something interesting in and of itself.
Man, I cannot wait until I can travel to Canada one day just so I can come try all of these beers because they sound right up my alley.
Yeah, they're great, and it's people are really enjoying the Haze Mama. It's uh, thankfully it wasn't as bad launching it during a pandemic as we because as soon as we had big plans and we were going to go across the province and do tap
Yeah.
takeovers in different cities and we were going to do all these big things, and then that just died. So we had to pivot and
Hmm.
uh, and look at ways how we could get the word out that this is a brand new beer that's available year round from our brewery.
Yeah. If you guys have started playing the Pivot Authentic game, you just had a drink in case you missed it.
Yes.
So, Troy, one last question for you. Because you guys embody what this show is really about with everything you've done this year, what does resilience mean to you?
Keep doing what you're doing. To be honest, it's know your customers and just keep doing what you're doing. Resiliency to us is um, authentic, consistent, memorable experiences, the whole package. Um, but fighting for what you believe in and doing it as a team.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on and such a fun interview. We'll have to do another time where we just have a happy hour together and have some beers since I missed my opportunity today. But I appreciate you so much and good luck with everything you guys are doing. Can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. This has been fun, and cheers.
Cheers.